Alright lads, welcome to another video. Before you do a typical YouTuber viewer and start commenting without even watching a video, I'm not going to sit here and slag off the new Star Wars Battlefront because, it's an awesome game. But there are, however, a few reasons why the original games were better in certain ways. Then again, I think because so many people were disappointed with this game that maybe I can slag it off a bit and get away with it. But it's only my opinion, so you don't have to take it to heart. Anyway, let's get on with the countdown. The first significant reason that there is simply that there were more maps in the originals, and I'm gonna give you an actual comparison here. The second Battlefront had 24 maps, including the Xbox DLC and the space maps, but I'm only calling the space maps as one map. Whereas the EA Battlefront, it has like 4 unique looking planets with about 12 maps created from those planets, but mostly the maps just look the same. And I think the new DLC is basically just adding about 4 maps to those current planets. There's no actual new planets in this new DLC. But in Star Wars Battlefront, all the maps looked completely unique. Even when 2 maps were based on the same planet, they're like based at 2 different places on that planet. So you could tell they're on the same planet, but they looked a lot different. The maps were based on iconic locations featured in the films, like Coruscant's Jedi Temple, the cloning facilities on Kamino, and inside the spaceship of Tantive 4. The space battles were also more extensive, also you basically had to focus on bombing, destroying the enemy ship. You could bomb it from the outside with a bomber, or infiltrate the enemy hangar with a boarding party and start destroying the internal systems. There were like these 2 classes you could play. The pilot class had more explosives, but the trooper class had better weapons. So it's the job of the troopers to protect the pilots while they boarded and started planting time bombs. It was just a little bit more to it, rather than a random dogfight. There were, however, less game modes. There was only Conquest mode, which is basically the same as Supremacy mode. You have your flag modes and hunt modes where you got to actually place Tusken Raiders and Wampas and Ewoks, which was also pretty cool. The second reason is the fact that there was an actual single-player experience, actual content for single-player in the originals. The second game particularly, as there was a story-focused campaign that went chronologically through all the major battles in the films, with a few improvised extras to fill in the gaps in the films. It was all from a point of the specialist clone squadron. It was quite interesting. The story wasn't heavy or anything, but you got these small dialogue cinematics and clips in the film which actually made you feel part of the story. You actually felt like you were in the film, which is pretty cool. The campaign also had unique game modes and objectives for you to complete, like retrieving important objects, surviving waves of enemies, or slaughtering Jedi, which is probably the best mission actually in that entire game, when you have to go into the Jedi Temple and kill all the Jedi. That is the best mission, because it's hard as nails, but it is fun. There's also the Galactic Conquest mode, which almost felt like it also almost made the game feel like a strategy game. You were basically in control of your own fleet, and you and the enemy took turns at travelling across the galaxy, invading or defending planets. And the more planets you controlled, the more credits you could earn and spend them on new troops or special upgrades to your army, like command point turrets, extra health, extra ammo, enhanced blasters. There's also a chance that if you came into contact with an enemy ship, you would engage in a space battle before you could invade the planet. Another thing I was quite surprised by when EA Battlefront was released was the fact that there was no Prequel Era. Obviously people kind of hate the prequel films, but this kind of game isn't really about the films. It's about the battles inside those films, and you can't deny that the battles in the prequels were awesome, if not better. Okay, this also meant that there was more heroes to play, and obviously more maps. You could play as droidekas, mana guards, those guys on the 3rd film with those double-bladed, kind of lightsabers who defend General Grievous. You could actually play as them. It was really cool. And you had super battle droids, and you could fly around in iconic spaceships like the Jedi Starfighter. The next reason is exclusively for PC, and that is that it simply had mod and custom server support. There are even quite a lot of people playing the game online right now. Battlefront is really up there with probably one of the most modded games of all time. There was this big mod called the Conversion mod, which originally aimed to add the Battlefront 1 maps, but eventually turned into this huge overhaul mod with a Knights of the Old Republic era and probably over 20 new maps, which are also hosted on servers online. Another overhaul mod I'd recommend would be Dark Times. It's probably the most professionally made with its own campaign. Really, if you're going to release a game like this, onto PC without mod or custom server support, you deserve to burn in hell. Really, it's like releasing a console game without controller support. I mean, indie developers can do it better than the big developers, and it's not because it's a difficult process. It's just out of pure laziness and disregard for the PC audience. But anyway, that video isn't about that. Now, my last reason is a little random because I've kind of accidentally merged a lot of the reasons I was going to say while planning what I was going to say for this video while I sat on my toilet, which is what I always do for some reason. Just a fun fact for you there. And while I was kind of writing the script, all these ideas just kind of merged together. But oh well. Last reason, I just feel like the Battlefront 2 had better combat in ways than EA Battlefront. I mean, EA Battlefront was obviously trying to be authentically realistic, which is fine in a single-player shooting game or something like that, but for a more arcade simple game like Battlefront, you don't want the gameplay to feel clunky or anything like that. I mean, it's all about just shooting shit up. You're not looking for something immersive or anything. I mean, it's hard to explain, but basically in Battlefront 2, you could move around more and it feels less restrictive. There was a rolling mechanic which was like the main skill set for the game, as it was like a great way to evade damage. In the first Battlefront, you could also prone, and not to mention you actually had a bloody dot inside your crosshair so you knew exactly where you were shooting. I don't understand why they have that in EA Battlefront, I just don't get it. Like, what was it trying to do there? Anyway, you also feel extremely more acrobatic while playing a Jedi since you could like triple jump and glide around. Anyway, I'm going to finish the video there. Obviously the new game has a lot of improvements like the leveling system and the card thing, as well as some of the game modes. Without a doubt, the game definitely has a lack of content, and it's what really, it's the main reason why people really dislike and disappointed in the game. Anyway, tell me why you think either game is better than the other in the comment section, and be sure to check out the video link in the description to follow me on Twitter. My name is the Meta Goblin, and until my next video, ciao.